Oh Yuri, you stole our hearts in the abyss and dashed them brutally in Summoner Duels. After Fallen Edelgard, I did not expect our next nemesis to be an offensive juggernaut in the mold of Layla. Truth be told, he wasn't the powerhouse that he is now until a special named Lethality came on the scene. Anyone who's played Summoner Duels knows this unit, which is weird because both the unit and the special are pretty rare. The problem is, when you get the combo, he just buries you. Let's take some time to talk about how this unit works and how to counter him. Hello Summoners and welcome to another episode of FEHology, the study of Fire Emblem Heroes. My name is Joel, and listen, I had a long intro prepared about why Lethality Yuri is so amazing. But to be truthful, it's hard to put into words, so let's just dive right into tape. Now, this is my favorite Yuri squad from a player named Yuri Bird. And the first thing you want to notice is the merge levels. I have 34 merges on this squad. He has 3. That is an incredible use of resources on his part, and he uses this team absolutely masterfully. I'm here to tell you that this is one of 4 times that we met, and to my knowledge, I don't think I won a single one, and I don't think it was close. So as we look at this, I want you to remember what peak Yuri looks like, and this is it. That aggressive tactic that goes in, takes out that first unit, and then allows the Yuri player to pick off your units one by one. But as we look at this, the first distinction we need to make is the difference between an AoE Yuri and a Lethality Yuri, because these are two very different animals. Now we'll look at Sims later, but suffice to say, Lethality Yuri will wreck you. But both are really good. Any Sims I show you will be these 2 builds as well as a +6 to attack and speed. But we need to talk about the prototypical Yuri team. Now there are different flavors running around, but for the sake of research, I've built my own Yuri squad. We need a couple things for it to work. The first is 2 complementary nukes. Now in my team, Uller dives in to take out the Farsave unit and is expendable. Yuri does the cleanup. If you have lethality, you can tailor the 2 for different threats, but the fact that Yuri has Kanto usually puts him on cleanup duty. The next is the special charger. Duo Alphonse is fantastic because he can give you 3 charges per infantry unit, but it does take up an action in order to trigger that duo skill. Ash provides mobility, but equally as important, she has to be able to take a hit for the extended matches that you need to get your units into position. Azura does the dancing and miscellaneous support. Also, it is really important that you get that 3 movement on your other unit that's not named Yuri. So from here, let's dive in and talk about the counters.
You can call me Yuri.
Alright, so I spent a week collecting data and getting absolutely stomped. And these are the 3 best methods I found for countering. First, we have tech options, which are basically your stall ploy, even pulse tie, and units with preference weapons that can help you out. Then we have savior units designed specifically for countering Yuri. And understand me, you have to specifically tailor them. Then there's maneuvering, and we'll talk about things to watch out for and things to exploit. But let me pause and mention one thing. Everyone is trying to counter this team. Everyone. That means this is a very hard team to play with. At one point, while trying to perfect this team, I was 2 for 20. That's how much I love you guys. This has been a very painful week of Yuri learning.
Are you speechless? Am I that captivating?
Alright, let's talk about different tools to slow Yuri down, and there are 3 popular ones right now, and that's Reeve, Loki, and of course the pulse ties. Let's talk about Reeve first because he's honestly the most effective. This tome is designed to counter Yuri. This is not a hot take, look at this thing. Omni -5 debuffs and stall applied as an area of effect is pretty incredible. I've gone against teams that use him well and teams that don't. We'll look at the former in a second, but I have to remind everyone of 2 things. This unit takes up a spot on your team. Every spot on that team needs to do something, hopefully more than one something, and you're using one to counter a gimmick that you're not going to see every time. That means half the time you're going to be looking at this unit wondering why you brought him. The other thing is, this unit is not a guarantee that you'll counter the Yuri squad. Ashe is there for a reason, and she's a huge help to mobility. Also, don't forget that Kanto is not affected by gravity or stall. Loki has a lot more uses in other game modes, and on some maps she can wreak havoc as both an inflictor of stall and a mobile tactics room, but she's not nearly as reliable as Reeve. She does offer an added bonus as a healer and enough HP to run infantry pulse and even pulse tie. Speaking of the pulse ties, this is an excellent skill that you're probably going to see everywhere. It's incredibly effective if you can weather the initial onslaught, but often means you give up points for not having enough players in the capture area. On the right team though, it's incredibly effective. Let's look at an example of how Reeve is used effectively, and yes, I find it absolutely hilarious that the example that I'm using has Yuri on the team, but it was just so well done. Now, I think the best thing that Crypto Cowboy did was press his advantage here. I didn't have near the threat range that I normally would have because of stall, so he pushed everyone way far forward to take out the only unit that could counter his fallen Edelgard. There's a chance that I could have hung back further, but they covered a lot of space quickly and used Yuri like an expendable unit. This is peak Reeve. Also, look at that kit. That iceberg must hit hard. Oh, and here I'm trying to cover things by triggering specials, but it is too late because kablamo. Oy, it was a humbling week. What can I say?
Just my luck.
With enough investment, anyone can be stopped, but a pre-charged lethality counter can get very, very expensive. Let's just take a second and read this special quick. When special triggers, treats foes' defense and res as if reduced by 75% during combat. Disables non-special skills that reduce damage by X%. Translated, this means, screw you Edelgards, and I'm taking the rest of the savior units with me. So, I've taken the most common tanks and got them as close as possible to surviving the Yuris. I've got the results and how much the unit and kit would cost at the 50th percentile, but it's a good way to level the playing field and understand the relative costs. First up, we have Brave Edelgard, and I tried a ton of things. She just relies so heavily on that damage reduction. You can see that she survives the AoE version pretty well, but the lethality just demolishes her. It is possible to survive both if you replace Black Eagle Rule with Hardy Fighter, but I thought it was important to show these. Now this is the Hero Fest cost and includes a sparked copy, but you'll see a theme. In order to counter Yuri, it can get very expensive. Next up we have Fallen Edelgard. I know this looks like a victory, but look at what I had to do to this unit. Her two boons are HP and defense. And yes, I needed both of those. A base kit plus 10 survives the AoE version, but lethality really does a number on her. This is also the most expensive option here at a whopping 1,800 orbs. If you hate Fallen Edelgard though, this looks pretty satisfying. Now, Fjorm is the most interesting of the bunch and shows the power of Hardy Fighter. The problem is, of course, that AoE Yuri is the more common of the two and really just beats her down. There's also a problem with this being a very common savior unit that everyone has counters for, but still, it's really hard to argue with that cost. Now, does Brave Hector ever die? Ever. I cannot believe I didn't invest orbs in this unit. This is a really interesting build because it gets rid of distant counter altogether. If you think this is ridiculous, I've seen this exact build a lot. It's just hard to kill him in this configuration. The investment is definitely high though. Now this would be a 1,500 orb investment and that comes out to about 5 months worth of income. The other problem is you're not doing damage to anyone who's attacking into you, but you can set up your other units to counter them. Now, if you've watched the channel the last couple of weeks, you'll realize we're missing someone, and it is amazing to me how Nagi has seen new life because of Yuri. For an older +0 unit, these are fantastic numbers. The best part is the retaliatory kills. I'm seriously considering building this, like I have the fodder. But there's another question that should be asked. Where in the heck are the free-to-play options? And, I mean, there aren't any. Where would you get someone that was both strong and tough? Oh, wait a second. Now, there are a lot of things I love about this Arden, but the fact that he's at +0 just makes me happy. Sure, he requires some serious investment, but this is a Gen 1 armor, taking the latest and greatest nuke to the woodshed. It makes me happy, and 216 orbs is a small price to pay for that kind of happiness. Now, I also have to mention that there are other units that can take a hit from Yuri. Units like Spring Myrrh and Brave Ike get an additional +7 to defense and res, and that includes the math for the area of effect. I've seen them used, and they're more difficult positioning-wise because Yuri has such great mobility and can sometimes move around to hit your back line, but they're very good units. All in all, I'm here to say that you have options. The problem with far-save units is that there are such a range of counters that they have to account for. And probably this Hector does, well, most of them, if not all of them. But the fact that he had to sacrifice everything, including his ability to counter, tells you something about how well these work.
You've had your fun.
When you're faster than everyone, you're always alone. So, I wish this was the longest part of this video because I think it's the most important part. Understanding how this strategy works is so key to defeating it because it hinges on getting Yuri all the way to the other side of the map. The key here is you can make a trade. For the most part, I consider savior units to be expendable, and I'd trade my savior unit for Yuri any day of the week. You just have to make sure you're in a position to counterattack and not be pushed out of the capture area. Most Yuri players are very impatient, and I can see why. When the strategy is working, you're racking up wins fast. That means it's not hard to get them to overextend themselves because they're ready to be done. I'll show you another example of me playing badly, and this is probably the worst. I mean, the only consolation is this really is a fantastic Soth. Alright, so right off the bat, we've already discussed the strategy. I need my Uller to take out that Ascendant Fjorm. Now again, once that happens, I need all of my other units to be able to pick off their units safely. So, I get Uller going, everything is going as planned, this is setting up perfectly, but I put my Yuri out there too far in front. Ascendant Fjorm, done. Fantastic. And then I get even more aggressive by pushing Ash forward, which leads to him taking out my Yuri, pinning my Uller, and in case you're wondering, Laser Cow did not kill Soth there. Oh. Now, this is a particularly stupid move on my part, sure, but this is a perfect example of me getting kill happy and instead of having patience, locking myself into a corner. Even veteran Yuri players can fall into this trap, so it's definitely something to look for. But just understand, when you have Yuri, you're playing for speed. The longer you can stall, the better it is for you.
I won't disappoint.
Summoner Duels R is here, and I'm guessing you're going to be seeing a lot of Yuri. Remember, tech options are great, but they come at the cost of a B slot or a unit slot. Anyway, they come at a cost, just make sure you're factoring that in. Yuri saviors can be very expensive, but they can be found. Just make sure the secondary nuke doesn't destroy your team. Outmaneuvering is by far the hardest counter, but be on the lookout for players who are too eager and do stupid things like letting you pin their entire team. If you're asking for my advice, I'd say use a combination of these tactics. Throw your free even pulse tie on a unit that's more supportive, build a strong and tough Arden, and most importantly, watch for over-aggressive tactics. Overall, remember that it's okay to exchange units, just make sure you're getting value when you do. An even trade is not in your favor. I hope this is helpful in building a Yuri-proof team. It was great talking to you guys. I hope you're enjoying the new mode. As of this recording, I have not tried it out and I'm a little worried. Summoners, take care and schedule an appointment with your FEHologist real soon.